Hello, friends. I think you've heard me talking about Ennio Morricone before. Really love him. Great composer. Did 100 million film scores. He did a lot that you recognize, I'm sure, if you love movies. Once Upon a Time in the West is a classic. All those Sergio Leone films. So many Italian film soundtracks and so much beautiful, beautiful music. I think I may have told about a time when I was in Italy with my wife and we heard the music from Once Upon a Time in the West, walking through the empty late night streets of Venice. And one of those great memories, one of those great travel memories. And we came around the corner and there was a cafe, like this cafe that I think the locals go to after all the tourists kind of leave, except for us. And the locals kind of go. And so they had this classic Italian cafe orchestra with the instruments, and they were playing Ennio Morricone. And it became one of those indelible travel memories, just that music in that place. And I've always loved Ennio Morricone. Sometimes we go to concerts here that will have his music. Unfortunately, I never saw him live. I know years ago he was doing shows, was going around and conducting shows, and I really kicked myself for not going to one of those. But recently we went to a performance of some music at the Disney Center and bought an album. We saw Yo-Yo Ma perform, and so then I looked in the gift shop there at the Disney Center, and they had this album, Yo-Yo Ma plays Ennio Morricone. There's Yo-Yo Ma, there's Ennio Morricone. How cool. Yo-Yo Ma is amazing. Plays the cello, as you may know, and he plays with such fiery emotion. He is so good at it. So good at a difficult instrument. I mean, it's easy to drag that bow across the strings, but it's so hard to be good at it. And Ennio Morricone, who composed so many amazing things. Maybe you can see that. You can freeze it and see what's on there. This has the stuff from the Sergio Leone movies. It also has some Brian De Palma stuff where he did the music for The Untouchables and Casualties of War. This has Once Upon a Time in America, The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and a few others like Cinema Paradiso, and just amazing album. The sound quality on here is great. This is on, I got mine on yellow vinyl, and it just sounds beautiful. It's a great thing to put on the turntable and play the vinyl. But listen to it any way you can. It's an example of a really grand performer, musical, instrumentalist playing the music of a fantastic composer. The music on here is so emotional and so filled with emotion and filled with visuals that when you hear the music, if you're like me, you start picturing the part of the movie that music goes to. And I really believe that folks like Ennio Morricone and John Williams and all the great composers of film music, I consider them to be filmmakers just as much as the writer, the director, the actors, and all the other crew members. They do the music, but they are actually working on, when they're doing a film score, they are filmmakers because they are making the film with their music. It's not just music and film, they go together. How can you have Jaws without that John Williams music? And how would those Sergio Leone movies have worked if he had just used stock music from the library, like needle drop kind of music and standard, Western cowboy movie music? I don't think those movies would have the power. They would have Sergio Leone's power and the presence of his filmmaking, but I think there would be a huge emotional loss if the music was somehow disappeared from those movies. Ennio Morricone added so much feeling to the movies that he scored. the emotional content that he put into scenes works so well with the scenes. And he will take a scene that's already infused with emotion and he'll bring it up to the point where your eyes are watering because you have allergies, not because you're crying. But he can do that with the music. I mean, there's scenes in Once Upon a Time in the West where, I don't know if you're familiar with this movie, but the woman arrives in town and nobody's there to meet her, and it's like, what am I going to do? And she goes in and talks to the guy at the train station, and the camera doesn't follow her in, it stays outside, and the music just soars at this point where the camera, she is basically like, I guess I'm on my own. She walks out the door into the town, and the camera, instead of going through the building following her, the camera goes over the building and picks her up on the other side as she's emerging into this old dusty western town on her own. Like, it's so emotionally moving. And I know that when Morricone, I don't know, I wasn't there, but I imagine that when he saw that scene, he felt like, this is a moment in her life that she will never forget. This is the changing point of her life, a turning point in her life. This is where her life broke in half. And her previous life and her present life are now two different things. And that separation, those moments that we've all had, we think back on those moments. Those are moments that are locked into our memories. And I think music plays such a part in it. When you listen to an old song, you listen to something from your past and you're like, oh, that takes me back. That takes me back to when I was in high school, and it makes you think about your old girlfriends and boyfriends and your friends and some people who may not be here anymore, and moments that you had and fun that you had and things that you did and things that you remember. And that's what I think music can bring to movies. And Ennio Morricone is a master of finding the music that matches the feeling of the scene. And I know, the title of my podcast explains how I feel about music and how it's magic, but I don't know how it works. I don't know why it works sometimes and doesn't work other times. But for me, Ennio Morricone's music works so more often than it doesn't work. I can't think of any time when it doesn't work, but he knows feelings, he knows humans, he knows humanity. He knows that the feelings of this character when she gets off that train and is lost, suddenly thrown into this new place on her own, and like, what am I going to do now? And you know how you feel when you have those situations. If you've ever gotten off the train in an old western town and you're suddenly nobody's there to meet you, and you're like, I don't know what my life is going to be now. And the soundtrack to that is just this swelling, beautiful music. And it's Ennio Morricone used voices without lyrics. He did lyrical stuff, but sometimes he would have a woman's voice just singing tones, non-lyrical tones, which to me made it seem like her song, her music, because when she's talking to the guy inside the station and the camera then goes up over, it's almost like you're in her mind, and she is the female voice that you hear singing these tones is her sadness being manifest in sound. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I feel. I feel like he was really able to tap into the way people feel, and the way music can magically transform that. Music casts a spell. It casts a spell on us somehow. It puts a magic spell on us and makes us feel things and makes us remember things. It makes us remember feelings that we had and all these things. That's what's so great about Ennio Morricone to me. And Yo-Yo Ma is someone else who understands emotion and feelings, and he's able to express that in the way he plays. So I think this album is kind of a perfect combination of two sort of genius level creatives who get it, who really get the emotional power of music. And so I highly recommend that album. Look it up. You can find it. It's out there. If you like the film score music, which I absolutely love, check it out. I love it. And I will talk to you again real soon.